Hey guys, Akariss here, bringing you another Fire Emblem Heroes video. Well, today's video features that masked individual, who we all know as Marth. For the video.
Let the lesson begin.
Alright guys, so today's video is a unit analysis. Now usually I do these on Twitch live, but I figured that I wanted to be more concise through a YouTube video this time. Future ones will definitely be more Twitch lively in nature, but today's feature is Masked Marth, and Masked Marth is an interesting thing to talk about for a couple of reasons. First of all, Masked Marth is the current AR bonus unit as of the recording of this video, and will likely be a future bonus unit at some point because they cycle through all these GHB units and Tempest Trials units, the Grail units essentially. And here's the interesting part. So Masked Marth is basically a unit, or like a character that if you played back in year one, you probably have many copies of. She has no fodder, and is just a very easy merge, and potentially an easy investment too, once we get into that in the latter part of the video, of course. So one of the first few units we got, and recently got a really good refine in the form of Sealed Falchion. Now, Sealed Falchion, I think I covered in a Refine video a couple months back, but essentially that weapon is super good because it has a deny follow-up effect in it, and that means a lot of the stuff ends up being a speed check, and it's kind of like a half null follow-up, I like to call it, because you're denying units who rely on follow-ups and that they don't use like speed. For example, Bramimond is a good example of this, but there's tons of other ones too, like Tibarn, of course, and so forth. Anyways, so Masked Marth is one of the first few characters that a lot of us got who were playing back in year one, and is a very high merge because there's no fodder on her. And as a result of that, and a recurring AR unit, it's kind of fun to potentially consider using her as a carry. But not only that, of course, we'll talk about other places you can use that. A lot of people have Masked Marth, and that's what we see here. So, first build, I'm highly thinking that you might want to, if you want to use Masked Marth for Aether Raids offense as a carry, is a distant counter Spurn Join Drive Attack build. Now, Spurn Join Drive Attack comes off of, I believe, Akariss, so that's a together type of investment. And the QR here combined with distant counter plus the damage reduction of Spurn and the great speed that Marth has works all in tandem with Sealed Falchion's deny follow-up effect. So by denying a follow-up and having QR to guarantee your own follow-up should an enemy be using something like Sturdy Impact or deny follow-ups in general, this makes it a great thing together to use. A lot of other like units use this combination, like for example, Fallen Ike, Chaos Ragno with like Repel and Quick Riposte is a staple good build on him as well. But the thing that I'm really going to push for here is if you wanted to use Masked Marth as a carry for Aether Raids offense, you must use Lancina or NY Valoria, I guess. But essentially, you need that because constant specials being thrown out are key to making sure that her matchups are successful. And I'll show you those in a moment as well. But essentially, this is one way to look at it, and guaranteeing your kills through multiple combats. Spurns, extra damage does help a bit. So I feel like that one is going to be ideal over Repel or Close Call, especially for Aether Raids. Now, another build you can consider is more of a one-shot type of build. Glimmer, Moonbow, and Ruptured Sky all seem fairly similar because, honestly, you're just kind of relying on the extra damage of Spurn in this case. And yeah, it's a lot of overkill in a lot of cases, so just go with whatever you feel fits you best. All these builds are without Mythic Blessings because nowadays there's just so much variation in the stats you can get, so who cares. But essentially you get your healing here out of Mystic Boost, and you rely on your special damage through Glimmer, Moonbow, Ruptured Sky, and Spurn to kind of finalize kills for those units who might actually survive 2 hits, like some red units, for example, or blue units. Red would be something like Elwood maybe, or Arden, who knows. But yeah, so one-shot build is something like this. You still get a lot of doubles for the units that, you know, don't run impact, but the ones that do, you kind of want the QR build. Okay, and finally, the last thing that you can probably consider running is with recently released Our Duel Infantry 4. I do believe that Masked Marth is a solid option of Time's Pulse, Flashing Blade, Galeforce, and Close Call being the B skill preferred here because of the hidden run mechanic, giving yourself mobility. However, Tempest skills could be pretty solid too. Both odd and even Tempest work great as a C skill here for Masked Marth, and Sealed Falchion's dragon effectiveness is definitely handy in a lot of cases through different dragons you might encounter in Arena. So with an Arena or Aether Raids offense, Masked Marth is a viable option. But just to give you the full picture, of course, we did look into some sims, and that's what we have here. So these sims will look at light season as opposed to Astra, but I feel that the results are fairly similar. It doesn't really matter what season you look at. I feel like in Astra season, Masked Marth should still be okay despite Cyros being there because of the dragon effectiveness that Masked Marth has, and because of Sealed Falchion, Cyros isn't going to auto double on you, so it's one hard hit. But as long as you are running Sealed Falchion or damage reduction through Spurn, you'll be okay, and that's the only problem matchup in Astra season. But I did light season here because it's more interesting to look at. So all these examples here are going to use the two builds I showed earlier. Then we're going to look at some common enemy matchups, which obviously includes stuff like in Brammy, Veronica, Duel, Legendary Lilina, Python, Reinhardt, and Elwood. I feel those are common stuff you'll see on AR Defense, so it's good to take a look at those simulations, how they play out. If it's a rare unit like a mythic or a legendary, I just consider them at about +1. That's where you'll run into something like that. But mid merge and high merge is very rare, whereas the more common mergeable units like Reinhardt or Elwood are easily +10 and probably high invested as well. So looking at those two builds, assuming you have Peony Aramila as being the most common mythics, but Dagger definitely would help you here for the extra res, and other combinations like Freya and such could swing the matchups in different ways. I assume you're using Lancina and Drive Attack and Distant Guard on her, plus Summoner support and Ally support, of course. So yeah, those are the stuff we're going to look at here. Of course, the two variants being the QR build with a plus speed boon and the one-shot build with Glimmer and an attack boon. First up, I want to take a look at the one-shot build and how that plays out. So as you see here in the simulations, a one-shot build actually does a lot better against stuff like Reinhardt because you get 2 hits on him, he can't run impact, and that extra throughput, that extra damage will help. But unfortunately, you'll also take more damage because all you're relying on in this point would be Mystic Boost to heal you through, which could help a lot against the Cav healers like Veronica, for example, who might annoy you a lot since you can't run Null Sea Disrupt. Mystic Boost actually helps quite a bit against those type of threats. So it's a give or take. But if you're not running QR, then stuff like Elwood will be much harder to kill. Though with Glimmer, you actually come pretty close to killing him. So with a little bit more like drive attack support or just attack support in general, you could actually end up one-shotting him despite him having that impact effect. And definitely helps as well. Like as you can see here, a very favorable matchup for Masked Marth is actually Duel Lift, because Duel Lift has an auto double, so you deny that with Sealed Falchion, but you also avoid the second hit, which cuts through damage reduction of Duel Lift's weapon, and that's very good here. Damage reduction also helps against a common threat like Legendary Lilina because she relies on huge AoE damage, but you're reducing that through Spurn both in combat and through the AoE, and that's where, you know, damage reduction really shines combined with a weapon like Sealed Falchion. One thing I didn't mention, and one thing you gotta be very careful with using Masked Marth, is panic effects. So I did mention, you know, healers bothering you and Mystic Boost solving that, but if a healer runs a panic staff, for example, they could very well turn off your Sealed Falchion effect at full health. So that could be problematic and definitely completely ruin some of these matchups. Though it would be a very unlikely scenario and not something you should ultimately worry about. Finally, the other build here is the QR build. That would be guaranteeing your doubles. As you can see, as long as you have enough speed, units like Elwood, who might be running Impact, or Barn and whatnot, or even a Brammy with Impact. The Brammy shown here uses Attack, Defense, Push 4, but I'm sure with an Impact on him, the QR build would actually be favorable quite a bit. So the QR build is definitely nicer against units who can run Impact or Budding Bow or something like that. And you will take more damage, unfortunately, by Cav healers because you don't run that Mystic Boost. But overall, you should take a little bit less damage from Noontime being able to heal you through multiple combat engagements. But you will miss a few kills on some of the bulkier units like Reinhardt, for example. So that's a give or take, but I think both builds are pretty nice. And this Masked Marth is actually a viable carry even in 2021 in Aether Raids offense, or potentially Arena if you want a solid option there with Red Duel Infantry 4. But yeah, that pretty much sums up everything I'd want to say about Masked Marth in this video. Of course, this video was an idea sponsored through one of the viewers on Twitch. So yeah, if you were considering it, or maybe you want some sort of cool carry that feels very Awakening-like, then Masked Marth is for you. Give the video a thumbs up if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, it always helps out. Leave your thoughts on Masked Marth, or potentially any future analysis units you want to take a look at in the future as well, or join the Twitch and Discord and definitely tell me there. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys for watching as always. Much love. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
It's over.